Things people aren't aware of is this new marijuana law here in the state of Washington. Well, I was one of the people who worked on drafting the original medical marijuana law. And I also was a big part of the support for the original decriminalization. See, back in the 70s, Seattle decriminalized marijuana, and I was a big part of that as well. I was a lot younger back then. And so, you know, when we got the medical marijuana law, actually in 1996 or 97, I was arrested for possession of marijuana in, I believe it was Shoreline, and you're blinking in and out.
Okay.
And or try another cam.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
And
Trick or treat.
okay,
Don't you want my information, Don?
Yeah,
you're getting good at this, Don. As long as you've been doing it.
Hey, I'm going to a class on this in a few weeks.
All right, good job.
So now, are you over in this part of the woods?
No, I'm not over here.
I mean, so you just came over to get on?
Came over. No, yeah, I just came over to talk to Don. Yeah, I work with a lot of different tribes, dude. I travel all over the country. I keep pretty busy. Alaska, you know.
Really?
New Mexico, Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, Arizona, Colorado, Wyoming.
Hey, Don, why don't
Idaho.
excuse me, why don't I
Here in
introduce
Washington.
Kurt and,
I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay, 936. I'm going to get your phone number on here, Will.
it's 206?
937.
No, not that one. No, 206-701-7005. Hey, Kurt, can I get your number?
Anything else you want, Bill, for identification?
Just put down McCoby.
You can put Chief Kurt Riggin, because that's what I am.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm a member of the tribe.
What tribe?
I forget the one that you said I was a member of. No, the chief. Yeah, is that it? No, the chief who I think died. I forget his name.
Doug Lavin.
Yeah.
He adopted you, I know. I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, I know you're a tribal member.
Well, we're both tribal members, so.
I was just wondering if you remember. Kiki Ellis.
Kiki Ellis. I couldn't remember that. Kiki Ellis.
Yeah.
Hey, Don, I want to get Kurt's number before I leave, okay?
Yeah.
See, the Kiki Ellis tribe used to own the Skagit River. The Skagit River was called the Kiki Ellis River.
And then they stole it.
And then Governor Stevens, back in the 1880s, I believe it was, they took it from the Kiki Ellis tribe, kicked them off of it, and sold it to a bunch of Dutch businessmen.
Jeez.
So guess what they do there in the spring every year now?
Fish.
No. If they fished, the Indians would still be there.
Oh.
They have tulip festivals.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You ever heard of that?
Yes.
And guess who runs tulips and grows them and has been doing it since? I
Must
don't
be
know,
the Dutch.
1600s? There you go. So, you know, instead of Indians being in the Kiki Ellis River Valley, we have Dutch tulip growers. So,
I
now,
mean,
the
but you
Americans have been
couldn't
here for 100 years.
you couldn't win it back in court. There is no law, is what you're saying to the courts.
It's pretty tough, but nothing's impossible. Nothing's impossible.
Well, like Dave was telling me, he said that you showed him up pretty much. You know, man, I remember when that happened, Kurt,
What do you
over at
mean?
your house, over in Ballard, when they attacked you, and that Randy guy.
Everett is where they attacked us.
Everett, pardon
And
me.
they came in with a bogus warrant. The warrant was signed by a guy by the name of Judge James White.
Yeah, Edmonds.
And he was an Edmonds municipal court judge, but he signed it as a district court judge.
Yeah, right.
Which, here's the thing. Even though it's been over 10 years, I can still charge him with fraud, forgery, perjury, impersonating a public official. I might be able to not charge him with that. But fraud, forgery, and perjury have no statute of limitations. And he's still guilty of all three. And so is the Snohomish County Court.
Well, I remember.
For allowing it to even go through their court system. It was fraudulent from the day it was filed.
Remember those books I gave to you? Those annotated RCW books and the reporters?
Yeah, I lost all my everything I had in my whole house.
Yeah.
I lost it all.
Well, Dave told me Randy.
Well, you know, yeah, Randy kind of pilfered some of it and sold a bunch of it, but I had a trailer packed full of my stuff, a semi-trailer delivered, and Don and a bunch of other people loaded it up.
Yeah.
And the guy I paid to ship it, a guy by the name of Scott Shipman, goes by the name, he uses the business name A Fuzzy Man. He stole the trailer I paid him to ship, along with my white wolf pelt given to me by the chief of the Aleuts.
Jeez. So it was a container, is what it was then that you loaded.
It was it was a big semi-trailer.
Semi, yeah,
You know, with
yeah,
wheels
containers,
on
yeah.
it. And yeah, he stole it. And I found out who he is and where he lives and all that, but I've been too sick to do much of anything for a while. I've been in pretty bad shape.
Well, you doing better now, though?
Doing better, you know. Been in and out of death's door probably a dozen times.
Have you heard of Dr. David R. Hawkins?
Nope.
Metaphysics? If you ever get a chance, Kurt, look him up. It's fantastic stuff, man. I've studied that for like 8 years or so now.
Yeah, I must be doing something right because, like I say, there's no medical reason I should be alive, but here I am.
Where's the makeup guys?
Any water?
Water? No.
No.
I'll go see if there's some,
This one,
Kurt.
that's mine.
Because
I'll be
I
right
just
back.
took
There's
some
a cafeteria right over here. I'll give you some
thanks,
water.
man. Appreciate it.
Don, I'll be back.
Go in here.
Go ahead. Start with you, Kurt.
Keep talking here. I'm going to introduce you formally here. So, I actually been recording for a while.
Oh.
So what's gone on is gone on.
That's all good.
So,
We love you, Don.
okay, but anyway, I'll introduce you here. We've got on camera. I got the camera set wrong here, but we'll work it out. Camera 3. We got camera 3. Camera 1. Camera 1. Okay. Let's see. I might come up here. Okay, good enough. I think we're all set pretty good here.
Sweet.
Huh?
Sweet.
We'll take it for about 40 minutes and then I'm going to fill in. I have been.
You the man, Don. You the man.
Gotta get my Riggin vest on here. It's a jungle out there, man.
It is a jungle out there, baby. I got my jungle shirt.
So,
I wore this in Thailand. It's a comfy one.
good.
The other one, dude, the reason I had to change shirts, I couldn't just come out. My shirt was soaked. It was totally soaked. I could have wrung it out like a rag.
You don't have air conditioning in your Beamer?
No, it's older, man.
Okay, well, let's
I had the 290 air conditioning. 2 windows down and 90 miles an hour, baby.
okay, let's see.
Not that I'm confessing anything, you know.
Okay.
Private road. No public roads would I exceed the speed limit.
Sure. Okay, let me see. I put my microphone out here. I'm doing okay. I gotta get my microphone back up here.
For the record.
Yeah. Okay. Hello. What's the matter with my mic? My mic's really low. My mic's low here. Hello. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's okay. I don't know. I can hear you. You're fine.
I'm fine.
Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna get myself up a little better here.
So yeah, man. Nothing like the cops damn near beating you to death.
Yeah, right.
My surgeon actually told me, he said, if you need me to testify, he said, I can easily prove that this was attempted murder.
Yeah, sure.
He said, there is no way you can be repeatedly struck in the same spot by accident. He said, it has to take repeated hits.
Yeah.
brutal repeated hits.
Okay.
And he said he thought it was done by a sledgehammer.
What the hell's going on here?
You're freaking me out, man.
How come this is doing that? Stop.
Uh-oh. Whoa. I'm Don. I'm Kurt. I'm Kurt. I'm Don.
What the hell's going
Now
on?
I'm Don and Kurt.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm going to get this show going here.
Back to reality, folks.
Okay.
So, what do you think of this 520 bridge situation?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you do.
That'd be a good one.
I mean, do the people of Washington know that Governor Rossellini signed?
Okay.
Am I yet?
Not yet. Let me get this show going.
All right, I'll wait.
Hang on.
Before I do my 520 rant.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll have some graphics in the background here.
You can put on the below 520 rant.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Now.
Start your recording now.
Yeah, it's recording.
We're on.
Oh, hi.
What, it's just you two?
Yeah, that's too. Go ahead and sit down.
I don't want. All I can talk about is spiritual stuff. I don't know shit about the Lord.
Well, anyway,
I'm trying to forget.
I got to get the show started
All right,
right
keep
away.
going.
But grab a chair or something.
Oh, and move it out of the way. I
Yeah,
get it.
Yeah, there's folding chairs over there. Not that one, no.
Not that one.
That's a piece
Somebody
of
else is
shit.
going to be sitting here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't want to be up by you, Don. I don't want to be back.
Okay. Come on.
You can be behind me.
You've been here 2 minutes, I'll bet.
No, I've been here.
Actually, we've been recording for 17 minutes on him.
You knew he was going to be at least 30 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, but I got to go because I got to be out of here at 4:50.
Yeah, actually,
Keep going.
I actually made it here at 3:30 on the nut.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Okay.
30 minutes.
Okay, let's see here. Why am I so damn quiet? My microphone just.
You have your radar? You have your radar checked out?
Hello. Hello. My microphone is just really quiet. Let me see here.
Well, I wanted to get your app.
Okay, let's see how this microphone's working. I'm going to use this microphone instead here. The other one seems to be really not working here. Okay, here we go. Okay, all right, got it. Good microphone. Okay, we're going to start the show here, and you want to get away from the back here, because I'm seeing you on the screen. Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah. Okay, let's just start it running right. Okay, right about now here. Oh, that's not what I want. Excuse me. That's not what I want at all. What's happened here? Oh, I know. I'm on camera 2. That's what's the matter. I'm on camera 2. Yeah.
On air, you.
Okay, hang on. I got to get back here. Let's start it off here. So I have my cue up.
As we know, the news is seldom the truth.
Yeah.
Never the truth. Never.
Once in a while, they tell you the truth. They say, hey, there was a tornado.
Yeah, okay. Hang on. Let's let the show get started right now.
You got arrested.
So be quiet for a second here now.
That's what you keep saying.
And welcome, folks. This is a special edition of Truth versus News Incorporated, where we have to try to tell the truth, and the truth is on one side, the news seems to be on the other side. They should be joined together, but they're not. And I have some people in the audience today, a very special show with Kurt Riggin, Chief Kurt Riggin of the Kikialis tribe. And without further ado, he's come all the way over from the Tri-Cities for this show, just blew into town, and I just would like him to start
giving us a spiel on what's really happening in the world of law and things as he knows it here. So, okay, go ahead, Kurt.
Well, first of all, we're going to start with the 520 bridge.
Okay. You get the traffic
come
in here,
from
huh?
out of town.
Yeah.
You guys nicked me going across the damn bridge.
Yeah.
Now, how come nobody in this state remembers back when Governor Rossellini, when they figured out finally that when people started getting a clue that the toll booth they had on the 520 bridge had collected 5 times the cost of the bridge. By the time people went, hey, what's going on here? This is, and Rossellini, to keep from getting prosecuted along with his other cronies, he wrote out a proclamation and made a law saying, signed it into law saying they will never have another toll booth on the 520 bridge. Toll being the main word there. There will never be another toll on the 520 bridge. Now, if they want to build a new bridge, the law says they're allowed to put a toll booth on that new bridge once it's built to pay for the cost of the bridge, and they can leave it on there only long enough to pay for the cost of the bridge. Well, he declared that the 5 times the cost of the bridge he collected was to be used for all future maintenance of the bridge. See, people don't understand tax dollars, once they're spent on a road or a bridge, they can't put a toll across that road and say, you know, gee, now we're going to charge you to drive on this road that we built with tax dollars. I mean, people seem to have a learning disability.
Kurt, do you know which law that was that you speak of?
I forget the exact, but all you got to do is look up the Governor Rossellini's laws that he signed into law, and one specifically pertaining to the 520 bridge. And now I know for a fact they buried it, but they will say, oh, we have it, we just can't find it. And they know it exists. I mean, all of us old timers, you remember that one, Don? And then like 10, 15 years ago, they tried to put a toll on the bridge.
That's right.
And so I got together and I gave some documents to a guy. I think he was a UW law professor at the time. Mm-hmm. And we let him know, hey, it's a crime because your governor said it was a law. You can never put another toll on a bridge. So that shut him down for, 15 years. They figured it out. Next generation, nobody knows any better.
Right.
I'm letting you know, guys. Governor Rossellini made it a law. Now, they never repealed that law, so all the tolls they've collected so far are fraud. And since it took more than one person to do it, that's constructive fraud. There's no statute of limitations on fraud, and we're talking 5 years and a $5,000 fine, mandatory minimum.
Who's going to be able to put that there?
All it takes is somebody with a hanging pear to go after them. Mm-hmm. Anybody got it? I mean, I know gals out here that got that. So you know, I mean, you just gotta, somebody's gotta have some guts and say, you know, we have to stand up for what's going on. People just go, oh, okay, I guess they can do that because they're doing it. Mm-hmm. You gotta start questioning the crap they're doing to us. First of all,
that's what this show's all about.
The recent marijuana law. Okay. Now,
yeah.
I was one of the people that helped write the medical marijuana law for the state of Washington and helped get it passed. You know, I took signatures. I knocked on doors. I talked to politicians. You know, I spoke to a lot of groups. I did a lot of stuff to try to get this thing, and we got medical marijuana, amazingly, in a high percentage vote the first time. My mom didn't know I had anything to do with it, and she voted for it. Mm-hmm. Wow. And, you know, she's 72 now. But she said, well, I think it's a great idea because, you know, people that are going through cancer treatment and stuff like that, she said they shouldn't have to suffer. And the reason I was so pro medical marijuana is because I had a personal interest I was diagnosed with chronic nausea from a motor vehicle accident. I was hit on my motorcycle on vacation in Portland by a 1-ton 4-wheel drive truck, and did a lot of damage to me. And I had chronic nausea, and the only medication that worked for me was Marinol. Well, Marinol was for 90 pills with copay, $1,400.
Wow.
That was my cost, $1,400. If I had an actual month's worth, $1,800 to $2,000.
Wow. Uh-oh. Excuse me. Uh-oh.
Excuse me.
Yeah. That's a fair amount of money. How much food could that buy?
Yeah, even my doctor said, listen, I couldn't afford your medication, and I'm a physician.
Yeah, right.
I make a lot more money than you. And he said, that I also had other medications I had to take, not just that one. I had pain medications. I had glaucoma medication. And, you know, my glaucoma medication is $178 a month.
Wow.
For that. So you start adding that up.
Sure.
At one point, my pain medication was $78 every 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah, especially after surgery, I was in pretty bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up 2 days after I got out of the hospital from surgery. I ended up back in the hospital for another 4 days with liver and kidney failure.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay.
And
Yeah.
another week after that, and another week after that. So went through a lot of tough stuff because I had a bunch of police officers that decided I shouldn't be alive.
Really?
Well, obviously they didn't want. I remember the first thing they said when they opened the door, that after the first night I spent in a drunk tank, and I wasn't drunk when they raided my house, worked me over. They stuck me in a shower for, well, from like 2 o'clock till the sun came out, and it was not a hot shower; it was ice cold. And then they took me to the hospital, and they let them X-ray. They told them they could only X-ray one of my wrists, but the X-ray technician, he X-rayed both of my wrists. He said, "Dude, they're both broken," and I'm not gonna. I don't listen to the police officer. I listen to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you got to wonder when our public servants are doing things like beating handicapped people and attempting to kill them, beating them half to death or to death. I mean, look at our friend who is a beautiful person. He was a wood carver.
Mm-hmm.
He was deaf.
Mm-hmm.
And he was shot by a police officer multiple times for what? Refusing to respond to commands.
Yeah, that he couldn't hear.
Because he couldn't hear.
Yeah.
I've had so many cases like that. I had a case in Colorado, Englewood, Colorado, part of Denver. There was a guy by the name of Joseph Kovach.
Mm-hmm.
He was going across the corner of Bellevue and Federal in Englewood. And they had a sound device, so when he heard that sound, he could walk across the crosswalk. But it didn't work. So all he could do is judge by the way that when the cars started going and the traffic. So he said, okay, the cars are going, so he started walking across the street. And the lady takes a left turn and hits him. And she breaks his wrist, messes him up pretty bad, knocks him 20 feet. And he makes it to the curb. He breaks his white cane. He had a white cane with a big red tip on it, hard to miss, about 5 feet tall. And she told the police, and it was in the police report, well, the lady saw the man with the white cane, but she had a green arrow, and he didn't stop for her, so she hit him. And Joseph Kovach
Makes
was
perfect
arrested
sense.
and charged with destruction of private property because he broke her windshield and damaged her car when she hit him.
Wow.
Now, in Colorado, the law is, guess who has the right of way in a crosswalk? It's not a car.
A pedestrian, yeah.
It's a pedestrian. Now, guess who has the right of way under the? There's a federal law that protects blind people, and if a blind person's walking across the street, guess who has the right of way? The blind person. No matter what the light is, you have to stop for them because they can't see you. It's kind of a common sense international law. Evidently, she never heard of it. She said, you know, I saw him, but he didn't stop for me, so I hit him. And she could have stopped, obviously. So when I helped him in court, you know, I got the police officer up in the stand, and I was asking him questions like, you know, I understand you. He put on the report that Joe Kovich's eyes were bloodshot, watery, and he had a glassy stare the whole time. And he said, my 18 years of experience tells me that, you know, with bloodshot, watery eyes and a glassy stare, he's on drugs or alcohol or both.
Are blind?
So I said, okay, that's fair. That's a fair assumption. That's a fair assumption. And so I said, Joe, could I see one of your eyes real quick? And so Joe pops out one of his glass eyes, and I stick it underneath the police officer's chin, damn near, and he's trying to crawl out of the chair. It creeped him out, you know. I said, does this look bloodshot to you, officer? And he's like, well, I don't know. I said, does it look bloodshot to you? He goes, well, I guess not. He goes, maybe he has a different set of eyes. I said, well, that's a good point. Joe, do you have a spare set of bloodshot eyes you could pop in when you want to, I don't know, catch a buzz so people will know what's going on here? Joe says, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, and no, I don't have a spare set of eyes. They only bought me one since I was a kid. And he had to have his eyes removed due to glaucoma. The same kind of glaucoma I have. Because even once you go blind, the pain gets so intense that a lot of times the only thing they can do is surgically remove your eyes. So my doctor, even though I have glaucoma eye drops that help my glaucoma, he made it clear, if you do not use marijuana with your glaucoma, you will lose your eyesight at least minimum 2 years sooner than you will without it. That's the difference it makes. So I asked the prosecutor in a case I was dealing with, I said, hey, if you had a choice between smoking pot and taking eye drops and keeping your eyesight for another 2 years, would you do it? He said, listen, man, if I had to smoke pot and take eye drops to keep my eyesight for another 2 days, I would smoke all the pot I could smoke. Yeah. And he dropped the case they were trying to bring against me. And that doesn't even mention, you know, the nausea part, that I had nausea long before I was diagnosed with glaucoma. But yeah, we gotta start asking questions and demanding answers in writing. Please provide how you overcome a law that was brought in by Governor Rossellini without repealing it, and now you're fraudulently charging people for going across the bridge. Under federal law, under the Whistleblower Act, the person who blows a whistle on them for that gets up to 20 to 30% of everything they stole from the public and from the government. So keep that in mind, people. Whistleblower Act. There's a law firm out there. I met a guy who worked with them in D.C. They are one of the wealthiest law firms. I can't mention her name. And they pay ex-Iraqi soldiers to go to Iraq and to take pictures of specific GPS coordinates from all different angles. Excuse me, I gotta shut this off. So they take pictures from all different angles, and then they send it back to them. And the lawyers go in and they sue companies like Halliburton for $700 million times 3, 21, 200. My math skills aren't great. 210 million. but they sue them for three times what they collected from the federal government because they proved that they defrauded the federal government. And first they do a whistleblower thing. Usually they get ignored, and so they can actually act as a assistant. They can act as an attorney general. It's called the private attorney general doctrine, and they could prosecute these corporations for defrauding the government, and they get a lot of money for it. Like I say, they're the richest law firm out there, and all they do is send guys to Iraq and different places we've been where we have paid money for restructuring for things like water treatment plants, sewage treatment plants, things that we're pouring money into that aren't getting done. All they are is holes in the sand. And so, gee, is this a sewage treatment plant? Oh, okay, that's the hole they're supposed to dump their crap in the sand. Great, okay. I'm surprised you guys only charged $700 million for that hole. So, you know, people, you got to be vigilant. You really do. You got to start going, wait a minute, what is this tax? You know, the new marijuana law, okay, it's a great, you know, I'm all for it, rah, rah, rah. Now, pot's legal, state of Washington. Here's the problem with it, though, okay?
Yeah.
Marijuana's got a law that says it's legal, passed by an initiative. And the state's now trying to regulate it like it was booze. They want to say, oh, we're going to open up pot stores like we had liquor stores. Until the people wised up and said, hey, why is the state selling liquor and making all this money when if a bar sells too much liquor and they get in an accident, who the hell's responsible? Is it the state that sold the bar liquor? Or is it the bar?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you're going to make people responsible, let's make the people responsible who really should be responsible. The state.
Hey, Kurt, I think that the federal whistleblower law is under 5 U.S.C. 1213, but I'm interested to know what happened with thank you. What happened with Joe? His case when he got hit. What happened with his case?
Joe.
Yeah, the guy with the glass eyes.
Joseph. Well, okay. Once I showed the officer, you know, that he didn't have a bloodshot eyes, and I said, you know, these eyes are, you know, the only glass eyes he has, and I said, do you think the fact that they're glass could attain for the glassy stare?
I don't know.
That's
just too obvious.
Dismissed because this officer, by arresting Mr. Kovich and not allowing him to get medical attention with his broken wrist, he put handcuffs on him and instead took him to jail. Mm-hmm. He violated the At-Risk Adult and Youth Act, and he's looking at not only official misconduct, but violating the At-Risk Adult and Youth Act and perjury of his oath. I said the At-Risk Adult and Youth Act could be a 6-year enhancement on whatever charge he gets. And if it's perjury, that's 5 years and $5,000 fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I want him arrested. I filed a complaint against him. He lost his job, but they declined to prosecute. You know, they don't want to go after their own boys. They tend to cover their butts pretty good. Yeah, there it is. I like that picture. Good
Yeah.
one, John. Good one, Don.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was me. When they came into my door, I answered the door with a cane, and they go, first thing they said to the door, he's got a weapon. Yeah, it's a weapon, all right.
Yeah.
That's it, by golly. And that got me the thugging. I guess they figured I deserved. But
Yeah. What was the charge when they came here? What were they coming? What was their warrant that they
they were
served you
charging
with?
me with cultivation.
Cultivation? Oh, okay.
Cultivation of marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I had a prescription, not just a recommendation from a doctor. I had a prescription. But let's go back to the new legal marijuana issue I wanted to get into. You got marijuana that's now legal. Great. Here's the problem with that. The state's trying to regulate it, and the state cannot legally regulate marijuana until they change their own state schedule for drugs. Because under the Washington State drug schedule, marijuana is a Schedule I drug, just like LSD, just like heroin. So unless they're going to open LSD and heroin dispensaries right next to their pot shops, they better figure out how to reschedule the drug, because the state constantly does things like, well, we're going to ignore this law, and we're going to enforce this new law that we have because we just passed it. And it doesn't work that way. If you want to try to ignore one law, you have to repeal it, lawfully repeal it. They're too lazy to do that, or they can't do certain laws. And so they just bury it. Well, that only works if people are asleep. Wake up, people. Wake up.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting taxed driving across the bridge that's been paid for a long, long time. That's criminal. Your ex-governor, Christine, sorry, people, she is the worst piece of crap governor the state's ever had. Glad she's gone. Hail, Christine. Glad you're gone. She is one scary broad. She was one of the Council of Eight. If there had been martial law declared in this country, Christine Gregoire would have been one of the 8 governors running this country. That scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Scariest thing I could ever imagine. And here's the beauty of it. Pleading the fifth is a guilty plea in civil court. Did you know that? If somebody says, did you commit a crime against Mr. McCoby here? And I say, well, I didn't beat Mr. McCoby. Or, well, I say, well, I plead the fifth on that. You don't say you didn't beat him. You say, well, I plead the fifth. I refuse to answer on the grounds that it may incriminate me. Well, that allows Will to sue me because that's a guilty plea in civil court. He could take that Fifth Amendment and he could sue that individual and say, well, now you've wronged me and it's proven because you pled the fifth. People don't probably know that. So when she gets up and pleads the fifth and there's any kind of criminal activity involved, she pled guilty. That's a guilty plea. So remember that, folks.
Well, wait a minute. Then what's the fifth for then?
The Fifth Amendment is for self-protection. That says you don't have to testify against yourself. That's what the Fifth Amendment is about. But if they ask you a question about a criminal act and you refuse to answer it, that can be considered a guilty plea in civil court. Because civil court has a different level.
Like O.J. Simpson.
Like O.J. Simpson. Civil court is not beyond a reasonable doubt like criminal court. It's a scale, and whichever tips one way or the other, that's where civil court goes.
Wow.
So, until the state reschedules marijuana, they cannot regulate it without every state official involved being criminally liable. They can go to jail under federal and state law. So, how impaired are our public officials? I hate to use the word because they are seriously, we got to wonder about these people. We really do. And now they're trying to shove gun laws like they did in Colorado. Well, the beauty of Colorado is they passed all these draconian gun laws in Colorado saying, oh, if I hand Will McCoby here a magazine with more than 15 rounds while I'm getting out of a car, I just committed a crime under the state of Colorado laws. And if I sold my dad or my brother a gun without a background check, I also committed a crime in Colorado. Well, the sheriffs, I think 54 of them in Colorado, said, screw you. We're not going to enforce these laws because they're unenforceable. And they're now suing the state of Colorado collectively, saying, you can't make us enforce these laws that are unenforceable. So, and Obama, he's like, oh, you know, he jumped down there and was like, oh, you got to, we got to stick with our legislators, and went down to the police academy and did a lecture. You know, it's like, sorry, these old boy sheriffs, they know how their people want. Their people don't want all this gun control, and you know, oh, we're going to tax the bullets so heavily that people can't afford to go buy. Hell, I used to buy a 500 brick of 500 round box of 500 rounds of 22 ammo for $20, $18 to $20. They want $69 for 250 rounds now in some stores and in the gun shows. It's crazy. So we gotta allow, you know, we gotta stop allowing our public servants to run over the boundaries established by our constitutions and our laws. Our state constitution, the original constitution that declared the state of Washington, was the 1878 Walla Walla Constitution. Now,
That's
I
right.
went
Yep.
with Lewis Ewing, Lloyd Smith, and a few other guys. We went to the National Archives in D.C. about 12 years ago, and we pulled the original Constitution for the state of Colorado from the National Archives in miscellaneous document number 55. It was in a box that hadn't been opened since 2000 or since 1901. So I was the first guy since that was in 2001. I was the first person since 1901 to open this box, and in it was the Washington State Constitution, Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, Idaho, Oregon, and Colorado. Now, there was others as well, but those are the ones I was kind of interested in and concentrated on. Miscellaneous document number 55 was Washington's. I think 47's was Montana's. And what they did is they in the 1898, 1889, I'm not real clear on that, it's been a long time. Back in 1878, this guy named Voorhees, they had a constitutional convention, and in Ellensburg, I think it was, and they said
January 3rd, 1889. Yep.
1889.
Yep.
They had a constitutional convention in Ellensburg. They sent the railroad and this guy named Weyerhaeuser and his thugs. They got wind of what they were doing with this constitutional convention, and they sent a train full of thugs up to Ellensburg, and they hit Ellensburg, and they damn near burnt that town to the ground. They killed 200 or 300 people.
Yep. That was on July 4th.
July 4th.
Yeah, but that was a fire that was caused by a wind and things, right? But I think these guys went over there and even helped the fire along by taking the books out and throwing them in the pile from the library. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we got to love our.
That's
and
what,
this is something you don't read in the history books, but I dug it up. It's in the National Archives. I got all the original polling records for our Constitution. So it used to be when you went to the state archivist and you said, I want a copy of the 1878 Walla Walla Constitution, you would have a certification on that said, this certification that this Constitution was never ratified by Congress. They seem to think that was important to put on there.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lie.
Really?
It was a bald-faced lie. I went to the National Archives with Lewis and Lloyd, and we pulled up the original polling records, which proved it was ratified by Congress. It was passed by the Senate. It was signed into law by the President. That creates the state of Washington. And in that Constitution, it says, all actions in the name of the state of Washington must be in the name of the state of Washington.
Mm-hmm.
It also says, it has a provision that says, no city, county, or state official can use their powers or authorities to enrich any corporation whatsoever.
Yeah.
Doesn't say except municipal corporations,
Yeah,
except for-profit corporations like the King
Right.
County Finance Corporation, which if you look up the King County Finance Corporation on Dun & Bradstreet's website, you'll find they own all the property that the King County Courthouse sits on, that the King County Sheriff's Office sits on, and all the other property King County owns is owned by the King County Finance Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
They have a DUNS number. They are a for-profit corporation. Why do we have a for-profit corporation running our government?
Well, for profit.
State of Washington is a for-profit corporation. Also registered with Dun & Bradstreet. They have a DUNS number. They are a for-profit corporation. So what they did is they buried the original 1878 Constitution in a box with miscellaneous documents, and it was known as miscellaneous document number 55.
Mm-hmm.
And then they initiated the fake Constitution, which was never ratified by Congress, never passed by the Senate. It was signed into law by the president at the time
I have a question on that
through
too.
executive order,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not even sure that's an original signature. I don't think he wanted to sign a fraudulent document.
All I see is there's a telegram.
And they created, all we find is a telegram. It's all I ever found.
Mm-hmm.
And they created State of Washington, a for-profit corporation run by goons like Christine Gregoire
Mm-hmm.
and Gary Locke. These people are members of a criminal profiteering organization. They are the biggest criminals we have in the state. They're usually sitting in the governor's mansion.
Right.
And, selectively on down. The judges are there. We have a whole lot of criminal judges. You guys have got to remember, anytime you get in front of a judge, you have a right to go down and find out if he has an oath of office on file on or before the day he goes into office, and at least 2 surety bonds on or before the day he goes into office. The Washington state laws require an oath of office and at least 2 surety bonds.
Is that for federal judges too? How about that?
Pardon?
Is that for federal judges as well?
No, believe it or not, that doesn't apply to federal judges.
What applies?
That's another
another
show.
subject, okay.
That's another show.
I know it's getting involved. Yeah.
Here's another thing people don't understand is that guess where I found the word representation? You ever been to court and they say, you have a right to be represented by an attorney? You ever heard that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Represent.
That's only one of your rights. Mm-hmm. I looked up all the original ones. It says you have a right to defend yourself. You have a right to assistance of counsel, or you have a right to be represented by an attorney. That's what's there. They are 2 separate things. Always have been. Assistance of counsel is not the same as representation. The only place I found the word representation was either in the UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice, or in the state statutes. I think it was Title 8, not sure, it's been a long time, where it's in the military code. See, back in '84, I think it was, they turned over the Washington State Department of Transportation to the Coast Guard. It's in the books. What happens when the Coast Guard's in control of the Washington State Department of Transportation? You are on, the roads become seas. It's all maritime then. And that's how, that's where the maritime thing kind of flies in. They go, I've seen a guy go in there, he's in jail now, I won't mention his name, Kenny, he was a good guy. Hi, Kenny.
Yeah.
Hope you get out soon, dude, and hang in there, brother. Don't forget, I walked a bunch of people out of jail when I was in jail by letting people around me know that
Habeas corpus.
nothing. I don't even talk habeas corpus. Anybody who's in jail for cash only bail in the state of Washington, Oregon, any other state, Colorado, you name it, if you're in for cash only bail and it's not a capital offense, which means rape, robbery, murder, kidnapping, they cannot hold you on cash-only bail. In Washington, if they hold you on cash-only bail for a non-capital offense, that's a violation of Article 1, Section 20 of the Washington State Constitution. In Montana, it's Article 2, Section 20. In Colorado, it's Article 2, Sections 19 and 20. And it very clearly lays out and delineates that the state can only demand cash only. It says the state has the right to, it says the state shall provide sufficient sureties in lieu of bond, but they may accept cash, except for capital offenses. So only during a capital offense can a court demand cash-only bail. So if you're held or arrested in jail for cash-only bail, and it's not a capital offense, it's driving license suspended or something like that, you can say, hey, you have committed perjury and official misconduct as a judge by arresting me and holding me in jail on cash-only bail in violation of Article 1, Section 20 of the Washington State Constitution. Also, if you know people who have been arrested for driving a license suspended, it used to be, you'd have to check on this, it used to be RCW 1031-100, it might still be that lists all offenses you can be arrested for without a warrant. Guess what it doesn't list? No driving license suspended under 1031-100. It is not an arrestable offense. How many people get arrested for driving a license suspended in the state? Hundreds.
I think a lot of people.
Thousands.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: most people don't understand.
The
suspensions they're doing.
Yeah.
They lost in Supreme Court. The state lost in Supreme Court.
Okay.
What they did is the law reads that the state, if you fail to appear or fail to respond to a ticket that you sign a promise to appear for, and that's the ticket. If an officer gives you a ticket, like Mr. McCobie, and he says, here, you need to sign this citation. Well, sign the citation.
Sure.
Now,
No, they
are you gonna
didn't,
say,
Kurt.
sure, Will?
No, because I got a ticket in April.
Yeah, and they don't do it no more.
They didn't even have me sign it, and they said I had a failure to appear. However, under Seattle Municipal Court case
Seattle might do that.
516-517, they dismissed driving while license suspended in the third degree for proof problems, which is the fact.
Yeah.
Which is the fact, Kurt.
Their ass beat on that.
Well, yeah, which is the fact that that the Washington State Legislature under Chapter 59, Special Sessions 232, says the legal definition of motor vehicle is commercial.
Okay.
And then also Article 1, Section 2, Supreme Law is federal. 18 U.S.C. Section 31, commercial.
Did you ever read my Right to Travel brief? 22.
I'm sure I did.
I'm sure you did.
I might even have it here.
I wrote it years ago, but basically I researched the right to travel in the state of Washington. Most people don't understand it. Guess where you had to get the first license in this state? Back in the 20s, my uncle told me that they came by his house and said, yeah, you need to buy a license. We noticed you had a car in your driveway, and you need to buy a license. And he said, I don't want no damn license. Get the hell out of here. Well, it's only 5 cents. So I don't care if it's a penny. Get out of here. I don't want no damn license. I don't need a license.
Who was that, Kurt?
My uncle, Gene Maddox, Sr. We have Gene Maddox, Jr.
Oh yeah.
Take a bow, Gene.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, so he said, no, I don't want no damn license. So several years went by. They came by every year. Hey, yeah, 10 cents. You can have a driver's license. He said, I don't want to have a driver's license. You didn't have to take a test. You just had to pay 10 cents, and they give it to you. They fill your name out and give it to you. It didn't have a picture on it. Just had your name on it. So they keep trying to sell him a license. He didn't want it. Said, get out of here. I don't want the damn license. 5, 6 years later, a cop pulls him over. Says, yeah, you were speeding back there. I need to see your license. He said, I don't have a license. Oh, well, you don't have a license, huh? He goes, no. I said, well, you need to get a license. I'll tell you what. He says, I won't write you this ticket if you get a license. What he didn't tell him is, oh, if you get a license, I can now write you tickets. But if you don't have a license, I can't. Because there's a case called Aberdeen versus Cole, and it clearly states in the Supreme Court case, Aberdeen versus Cole, that the state cannot suspend a privilege you've never had. So if you've never had a license, the state can't suspend said license. Now, they tried that with me. I didn't have a license, never had a license, so they sent me a license in the mail. Didn't have my picture on it, but it was a license in the mail. And they tried it twice. Once it actually had a mugshot from the jail because I had this big smile on my face, and I said, "Hey, I recognize that." And I sent him a demand letter saying, I demand that you show me a signed instrument or any kind of application with my signature on it where I requested a license or privilege of any kind from your state. Never have. So I said, and if you can't produce it, here's your license back, because I never applied for it, so I don't need it. People in this state, excuse me.
This right here is the dismiss with prejudice for proof problems, which is what I just.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so it's 516, 517.
The only people in this state that are required to have a driver's license to travel on the public roads of the state are people who transport passengers, commodities, or livestock for hire.
Correct.
And when you wanted to go down and get a license, and they didn't come to
Commercial,
your
yeah.
door and try to sell you one like they did my uncle, you had to go to the State Board of Railroad Commissioners to get your license back in the old days. Because they didn't have a State Department of licensing. So you had to go, and you go, why would you have to go to the State Board of Railroad Commissioners to get a driver's license? Does that make sense to anybody? Well, it does to me. Because guess where the first roads were going across this state? Besides the wagon trails.
The rails, of
We
course.
had wagon trails,
Yep.
but they went over some rough territory. The first kind of roads that a car could actually drive over without too much trouble were the maintenance roads along the railroad tracks. And most people don't understand that railroads have a 20-mile variance, and in some cases 25-mile variance on either side of the track. You ever been on a major freeway in this country that you couldn't see a railroad track within sight of the freeway? Ever? Anybody? Think about it. Not too often. And if you can't see it, you know that there is one. Because if it's within sight, that means it's within 15 miles. If it's within 20 to 25 miles, then you're still within the jurisdiction of the railroad. Most people don't know. I've done the research. Guess where the State Patrol of Washington and every other state I've ever researched in the whole western United States, guess where their pension fund comes from? The railroad.
Yeah.
So we got a bunch of guys out there in uniforms that are nothing but railroad dicks.